Here we go.
Well, hello there. How are you doing? It's Thursday, baby. It's Thursday, and this is video one of two. One of two. And come next week, the idea will be to do up to 5 videos a day. And you know that YouTube notifications are sketchier than the handling of the Bryan Kohberger case, which is what we're going to be talking about in a sec. So just keep your eyes peeled. Keep your eyes peeled because you may not get notified, but I will be doing multiple daily videos. And I still do get people who they were reaching out to me literally yesterday saying you need to check this out. And I'd literally done videos about it 2 weeks ago. So people are missing multiple videos that I'm doing through not getting notified. So look, anyway, let's get on with it because there's a lot happening around the Idaho 4 case. As you know, the trial is later on in the year. I will be attending this trial unless it gets bounced out prior to trial, which I think that everything is now being thrown at this case. Everything, including the kitchen sink, as the defense team for Bryan Kohberger finally, I think they're getting to the point where they're starting to lose their shit now. But look, can't you wonder at it? Can't you wonder at it? What are we into the mid-20s now in terms of discovery? Some people say that, that's normal. That's normal. Of course they will. All of the people who believe Bryan Kohberger is guilty, they're going to say everything's fucking normal. Everything. But there is not a lot normal about this case whatsoever. What there is, however, is a lot of people who believe Bryan Kohberger is guilty who are ignoring glaringly obvious issues in this case. I just don't get it. I don't get how people can say, Bryan Kohberger's guilty, he deserves to die, they're just delaying inevitability, get on with it already. And then when you ask them, well, why do you think that then? They sprout complete and utter bollocks, which is generally what happens. Look, and I get people have an opinion. And look, there are people who they are of a belief that Bryan Kohberger is likely guilty, but they're still willing to walk through the process and hopefully see it play out in a way that they're proven to be right. But they appreciate that we're not there yet. And those people I can live with. Absolutely live with. But I do have to address one other elephant in the room, and that is that there's a lot of different creators covering the Bryan Kohberger story in the Idaho 4 case. All right. Now, as of this fucking point, this moment, in respect of the Idaho 4 case, I don't work alongside any other channels. I don't collaborate with any other channels in terms of the Idaho 4. And there is creators out there who speak about my channel. And they're like, I love Arsh, or do this. But and then I find out that these very people who are spending a lot of time pointing the fingers and pointing and actually naming fucking people and saying that this is about fucking crackheads and this, that, and the other. And look, could be. Absolutely could be. The downside is why could it be? Because sadly, some of the victims in this, their families were involved with crackheads. So there is a possibility that there was something going on in the background. Do I think that that's likely the case here? I just don't know. I don't know. What I do know is that there was 3 unidentified DNA profiles that were fucking buried in this. They were buried. Quite literally buried, because the fucking house was buried. They knocked the house down and buried it. But the 3 DNA profiles that were buried, to me, just stinks of something happened here and someone's being protected. And why are they being protected? Could it be that these are rich people, powerful people, people of influence? Who knows? Is it beyond the realms of possibility? No, it's not, and I'll tell you why it's not. Because even the bare bones of Bryan Kohberger's case are flimsy, like a pair of pants blowing in the wind. That's what you get in a pair of pants blowing in the wind, pair of knickers blowing in the wind. That's Bryan Kohberger's flimsy ass case. Now, some people will lead you to believe that that's not the case. but yet they will fail to address that the FBI don't even place Bryan Kohberger at the property. They don't have any solid evidence that places him at the crime scene. All they have is a knife sheath, like this golden goose knife sheath, that apparently had his DNA on it. But even the fucking DNA around that is so convoluted that right at the very beginning, they turn around and say, ignore it. We're not going to use it. We're not going to use that. We don't need to now because we've got a buccal swab and we'll just use that. So ignore all that shit because we've now got a buccal swab and we can just say, well, we took a swab of his cheek and that matches what was on at the crime scene. Well, ignore that. Ignore the stuff that makes no fucking sense whatsoever and was probably done illegally, and the FBI hadn't even concluded that it was absolutely Bryan Kohberger there. Just all this building of a family tree and all. It's just so fucking odd. Just so bizarre. Going from Moscow all the way to fucking Pennsylvania, routing through fucking bins and all of that shit. You know what I mean? Just don't make fucking sense. The car that was supposed to be a petri dish of evidence that turned into nothing whatsoever. Going into his home, seemingly nothing there as well. Supposed to have been fired, but he still had his keys to his fucking office. So I don't know what was going on there. But anyway, what I was talking about was I don't collaborate with any other channels because we've got people who are balls deep in the Idaho 4Ks and pointing the finger saying these crackheads are involved in it. Then you find out they're crackheads themselves. Been sent copious amounts of information now that there are literally people covering the Idaho 4 case, and they're pointing the fingers at all these people, saying they did it, it's involved in this, they're involved in that, and they themselves are convicted crack fiends and involved in domestic violence and all sorts. Now, like I say, I'm not going to name them. It's not my place to. I'm just going to tell you now, if somebody uses my name or say that they like me, that feeling's no longer fucking mutual. No longer mutual. I stand alone with the Idaho 4 case. Stand alone with it. There are some decent creators out there who is still worth listening to. But just be careful who you listen to. Just be careful about the information. Take everything you hear with a pinch of salt, even over here, because I'm just saying my opinion. If something's fact, I'm going to tell you it's fact. If something's my opinion, I'm going to tell you it's my opinion. Do I think Bryan Kohberger did this crime? No, I don't. I don't think he did it at this point because I haven't seen enough evidence to suggest that he did. Absolutely not. Not by a long shot. And in fact, I've seen evidence to the contrary, and that would be that the FBI stipulated that original white Hyundai Elantra caught on that Linda Lane footage was not Bryan Kohberger's car. That's the bare bones of it. It weren't his. We have cell phone data that is incomplete. So when they're planning his route and plotting his route, a lot of that is speculatory. It's conjecture. And they need to fill in the blanks to make that make sense and be able to be upheld in court as evidence. So again, we've got a lot of evidence surrounding this that is simply it's spurious at best. Did he do it? I don't know. Could he have done it? Yeah, he could have done it. Do I think he did it? No, I don't. You've still got people who, in order to bolster their feelings that Bryan Kohberger did this crime, they have to ignore certain things and they have to interject these little slanderous, snidey fucking remarks like about him stargazing on the night. Oh, it was cloudy and he said he was stargazing. Oh, likely story. You're a fucking dickhead. If you still think that at this stage, then you're not paying attention. You're not paying attention. You're a fucking idiot. And you shouldn't even be on the internet. You should be, I don't know, in your nan's basement covered in jam and peanut butter. But we do have this. So this is the latest in the media, which is obviously on Sunday night. I'm going to go through all the docs. We'll have a proper chat, proper get back together as we get back into the momentum of there's a hearing, I believe, around the 23rd of January. I don't know whether that's going to be public. If it is, of course, we'll be in there like swimwear. But attorneys for Bryan Kohberger allege evidence mishandling, call for prosecutors to be sanctioned. Ada County, Idaho, a series of legal briefs were filed before the new year on behalf of University of Idaho murder suspect Bryan Kohberger. The dozen or more filings by the defense alleged that investigators mishandled key pieces of evidence in the collection process and were overly aggressive in their search protocols. As such, the defense argues the evidence in question should be considered inadmissible by the state. The lawyer for Kohberger, attorney Jay Logston, I don't know what to think of Jay Logston, I must admit. This is just my personal opinion. I think he's kind of a bit like the odd one out in terms of Bryan's legal team. You've got Eliza Masseth, you obviously got the main gal herself, which is, she's doing a fantastic job, but Jay Logston, he's kind of a bit of an odd one. But who knows? In the filing, that investigators had to destroy the house to save the car, or some other evidence from Mr. Kohberger's rubber gloves. So had to destroy the house to save the car, or some other evidence from Mr. Kohberger's rubber gloves. Authorities have previously stated the DNA evidence collected from the Kohberger family resident matches DNA found at the scene of the crime. Next hearing is scheduled for January 23rd and will address the various issues related to the prosecution's discovery process. Defense contends that the way the DNA evidence was collected, a process known as investigative genetic genealogy, is unreliable and controversial. Other filings list a variety of complaints related to how investigators obtained evidence from online accounts, including the suspect's Apple, iCloud, Google, and Amazon accounts. The defense also contends that prosecutors failed to disclose appropriate information about the experts to be called in the case and asked the court to sanction the prosecution as a result. And I'll tell you what's going on here. What my opinion is here is that we're still in this what came first, the chicken or the egg. And I think that's the primary issue with what Ann Taylor has been trying to force this entire time. And that is, how did you get to my client? Why is my client sitting here? What is the chain of custody with everything? And there's nothing clear here. There's nothing clear. This case reeks of reverse engineering. That's what it looks like. It looks like this entire case was reverse engineered and things were done to try and make things fit around certain times, when in reality, I think that someone pointed the finger at Bryan Kohberger, pulled the trigger on him, and away they went. And they had to start filling in the blanks. And now things are starting to kind of fall apart, as some of these things, they just can't fill in. They can't make them make sense. And if you've got an eagle enough eye, which some people like Sloofy Goosey has recently pushed out over on X regarding the date that they actually had Bryan Kohberger's name, seemingly is suggesting that that's now the 16th, not the 19th. There's little tiny little devil in the detail things that are now starting to come out, and things are starting to fall apart somewhat. But again, like I say, we don't have Bryan Kohberger placed at this property by any other manner than a sheath that was apparently left at the scene and some convoluted, complex situation around the DNA, the genetic genealogy situation that they wanted to have scrubbed from the record. They weren't going to use it, going to try and do it all, and yet conclude that we'll just use it, but we'll say we just took a fucking swab and that's how we got a match, and that's not what happened. And some people are going to turn around and say, well, that's all they really need. If it's a match, it's a match. People are forgetting the fucking point and not understanding the point here, and that is, was that fucking sheaf planted? Was that the golden goose they needed to try and make sense and to have an attachment, like the fucking worm on the hook? The sheaf was the fucking hook, and Bryan Kohberger got hooked on it because of that. Someone pointed the finger. They needed something more. They needed something concrete to set the wheels in motion. I can't help but think it. Let me know what you think, and I'll catch you all tomorrow.